Hi there, and welcome to my Soul Authority channel. I'm Lorraine Van Tool, transformational life coach, holistic psychologist, and meditation guide. I'm staking out the safe spiritual space in solidarity so we can hear our authentic voice over all the noise and realign ourselves with clear choice. This is at the heart of Soul Authority. If you felt burned out and low, join us in rekindling our inner fires and getting back in the flow. All right, so what we're gonna do today is slightly different. I would like us to scan our bodies and just become aware of maybe who we are. Uh, at, sort of when we go about our day and are not really thinking about meditating, a lot of times we don't really know how we're holding our energy or our posture, how we're breathing. It's a similar thing, right? And then when we think about it, we correct it, which is good. You can think about it many times. The more times you do that and become aware, correct, the better. But it's also and would be very interesting if we got a better sense of what things look like before we correct it or align things to really get a sense of split parts. I think honestly, most of us, if you listen to the teaching before, most of us, I think by the age of 5, have split parts already. It's just, I think, part of being human and trying to figure out in today's society where there's not one cohesive whole, there's a lot of movement, a lot of moving, a lot of ruptures. In communities where we can just sort of go to auntie, uncle, surrogate parents and whatnot if our needs aren't met. We need to split very early and do whatever we need to survive in our limited social circles, even if we bounce around. So I think most of us are split, and as you do a body scan, just sort of thinking about how you hold your energy, moving about your day, if you're not meditating and whatnot. See if you get a sense what parts might be monopolizing, might be sort of running the show, might be sort of bossing others around, what parts are dormant. And what I want to do is honor Spider Woman guides, grandmother spider guides. Lots of spiders have been coming up. And these spider guides, of course, their webs are great metaphors for casting this net to catch all the parts. Of course, they use their webs for food, to catch things, but it's also their home. It's something that they constantly fix and repair. And as one of my clients said, she tried to feed a spider in her house some bugs. They are very discerning. She gave the spider or entangled a dead bug in the web, and the spider cut it out and dropped it. So it's very interesting what the spider does in terms of staying in its integrity. Maybe it even, who knows, wants to get its own food and want to be taken care of. Who knows, right? But we all have our own needs, our own sense of what's in our integrity and not, what is aligned and motivated by something that is deeply connected to the inside of us, to source. So first, I think what would be helpful, what I've seen in my practice, is we're going to cast a net, and you can imagine being a fisherman, a fisherwoman, or spider, Um, it really doesn't matter. It could be you casting it or a guide casting it. What I want to do is just you imagining casting a really wide, expansive net that is also magical, that goes very deep in every dimension or wherever. One of my clients' web went scraped the bottom of the ocean, for example. It could go all the way up in the galaxy. It can go under rocks. Could go in cracks, in canyons, wherever it needs to go. And I want you to gather up all your parts that have been scattered around this lifetime, but could be any lifetime, could be any dimension. And I want you just to sit quietly. If you want to, you can sit with your tree or you can sit just where you're at and see what that feels like for you to gather and get all your parts into this net and back, at least under your control or with you where they belong. Another interesting thing that happened was that the guide started shaking the net, and I'm getting that same sensation out here too, and letting parts, cutting out parts. They didn't cut out parts, but I'm thinking of now maybe needing to cut out parts, but they were shaking the net to have parts fall out of the net, parts that did not belong in the net. So if you now need to cut out that part and repair your net again, do that. We want to ideally end up with just your parts. And for you to feel what that feels like. So, what I feel on my end is a lot more tingling in the inside. And I call this sensation like becoming more aware or having more sensation as if you're now the epicenter of an earthquake. A lot of times I think we go about our day and the body feels to me like a frozen lake or something like that, and the mind is like an ice skater just going about it, like moving left and right, and there might be triggered responses, feelings about things that feel, I guess, if you get very upset, I mean, your heart starts beating. It does feel like a full bodied experience, but it's not the default. I think it's just a triggered experience where there is some connection to our wholeness. And that's why I think a lot of us also get kind of addicted to our reactivity and to our triggered feelings, because that's maybe feeling the most like alive. It makes us feel the most alive and connected to all parts. But it's really off because why? Inside of yourself, your immunity and the core of you might be shut down. So there's a lot of interference. And so when you're having a triggered response, this is often what I hear, like I am defending my integrity, or I'm having this response because I'm, like, how can this person say this to me? I just like my integrity feels threatened. So that is the biggest oxymoron, because you cannot defend your integrity when you're not in your integrity. What you're defending is a part. A part is acting out, and what you're feeling and typically don't feel is that you're not in your integrity most of the time. So that's why we're so easily triggered and have a harder time staying calm and whole. When you are in your integrity, actually, you often don't get baited, right? You don't get triggered that way. You just like look at somebody and you're like, wow, they're really out of their integrity. How do I stay safe? Or how do I mitigate this situation? Or how do I not get involved in this mess or whatever thing? Or what help do they need, right? You don't you don't feel like a need to defend yourself because it's very clear it's all about them. So what we, really want to become aware of is what is standing in our way, usually in in place of our core, and what is interfering with sort of this connection, this sensation, this power in that epicenter. And again, as I explained in the teaching before, what usually happens is through trauma, a lot of relational trauma. Um, it's not like a true, like, I mean, not a true, but like a car accident or a earthquake or something like that. That's a one-time thing, and people around us help us, and we integrate it again. Um, Most of the time it's relational trauma. And what I want to say, it's not that this isn't true trauma, but it's actually kind of worse trauma. It's chronic, and it forces us to misalign and split from our core self and become more loyal to somebody who seems very powerful and who we depend on. So what's in the center is often that kind of fear. That's why I spell it as interference, fear that I will not survive, I will not be okay, I cannot do this, I cannot rely on my truth, and I must numb this. It often feels like a balloon or something. It bounces right off. There's no sensation. And when I validate that, it's like, that makes total sense that you've done this to survive and attend to all the needs of other people all around you, then I start feeling sensation underneath that. And the sensation I've been feeling at least 3 times in the past week, it felt like sticky molasses, tar-like, something undigested. I've had one time digestion issues. It does feel kind of like menstrual cramps the same way, sort of this slow, like achy, dull feeling. So I've been feeling that a lot. So what I think we need to do is two things we need to do. First is clear that up. There are different ways you can have worm guides, try to compost it, break it down. But anything that makes sense if you were to deal with this problem in the physical world. So I've used a cauldron and put this sort of, stuck, coagulated, whatever it is, undigested stuff in there, added water, stirred it over low fire. In the past, before I did this so elaborately and understood what I was clearing, I have cleared my ancestral line, my mother's impact on me, and I've used a jackhammer, and I know of other clients who've used a roto rooter, and just really cleared the pipes out. I've had people use suction devices that like that the dentist uses, sort of put in water, sort of clear it, flush it, and then suck the stuff out. I've had people use crystals, whatever needed to break things down energetically and reabsorb that energy. So that's one way. We've got to clear. You keep clearing as much as you can. The other problem is not enough circulation. If we have a fountain, we have running water, we have things moving, circulating, it naturally detoxes and cleanses. So what have I found effective? I do this connection sitting, with the tree and you connecting to the spine and everything, but and entering to the heart center. But for some reason, it just doesn't click. What I mean with that needs to be the epicenter. So you can literally, if this feels more powerful, imagine that you have a plug in your hand and we're looking for an outlet. Your phone is on weak, like your battery needs charging. So you become aware of that when you don't feel this strong center holding all the pieces together. And this outlet is like your God source. right? Mystery. You can think of it as nature, the trade, sun and earth, as I do. But if that doesn't feel like giving you that jolt enough, you can just literally imagine an outlet. Put that plug in there and start surrendering, like fueling, knowing that there's more power that's needed to do all the things that you want to do, but again, don't come from this place of content and identity where you need to fill yourself up and you need to have, all the answers in terms of mind or energy or whatnot. No, you're in many ways a servant and many ways a vessel. So you're an agent, but you're letting things happen, or you know exactly what to allow, what to surrender to, which is your parasympathetic nervous system, all that energy flowing, all your blood, your breath, your heat, and that energy keeping your heart beating. You have no control over that. So, but we're plugging into that. So the control you do have is the appreciation. It's the surrendering. It's the serving that and appreciating how that mystery, that gift of life is moving through you. So once we do that, this is like healing glue. It's kind of what helps us do. We had surgery or we had a cut. It physically heals us, but it's also the healing glue, the love that repairs all this splitting of emotional parts, the wounding, the psychological. So what it does, what your ego mind does have control over, is allowing nature to do its thing, its natural healing, um, and more fully heal. And once that happens, guess what? All those voices that you repeated, that inner critic, the voices of whoever said you're a good girl, bad girl, you should be doing this, or bad person, guy, or whatever, whoever, wanting you to be a certain student or a certain employee or citizen or whatever. All of that will start to be more clearly associated to their or the original source of where you heard it, and may not remember, or may even be stuff that your parents heard and passed on, or it may be things you heard in your past life, things that we're very prone to hear because of our human wiring. But all of those will sit a little bit more on the outside. You cannot completely cut it off and get rid of that. That is not the point. Yes, you can be compassionate and relate to others. The point is to understand what you need to do to integrate your parts back and become whole and honor your integrity and put less weight. Take it more like a grain of salt. Why they say that? What people around you want and need and are going through. It doesn't mean that you dumb down, especially if you're very intuitive and everything. You actually will discern, will understand even more what they need. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you need to respond and jump out of your own circle or own integrity to attend to them. It just means that you understand and they need to do what they need to do for themselves. And you also honor that. You do what you need to do for yourselves, for yourself. And if somebody were to intrude or overstep that, you might now become more aware that that's harmful to your integrity too, no matter how well intended or whatnot. So that is how we get our parts back. That's how we're truly intrinsically motivated. And all this intrinsic motivation is first and foremost the healing and mending and repairing and gluing and solidifying of all of our parts. And once that is done, we just like the sacred well, we overflow, our cup is full, and we want to spread that and we want to help others with our gifts. If we do it in the reverse way, we end up with a problem, right? Just like they say in airplanes, your mask first before you start helping others, because you become a mother tree. You are relied on. You need to make sure you're able to sustain your gifts, the help you offer, and that you're not harmed. Otherwise, right? It's like giving people water from a poisoned well, especially if you become more and more powerful. It's even more important to make sure that you're balanced, that you're well, because you will influence more and more people, or if it's not necessarily more, you will impact or influence them more deeply because of your powerful presence. Last thing I want to say, or my guides want to say, don't get confused. A lot of big hearted people, when they get their parts back, um, they're confused because they feel so much. And so that's one setback or one temptation that they need to be aware of. They can feel so easily into parts of others. So be aware of that. You're not doing anything wrong. You're going to feel maybe guilty or you're not doing enough. That's how it's supposed to feel. It helped me a lot to think of it as I'm hurting people when I overstepped on the boundary rather than I'm helping, I'm meddling, I'm going in their medicine chest, I'm going looking into things that are not my business. So that might be helpful. The other thing that can confuse us is you will become threatening. You will feel by yourself more whole, more light, more integrated, more amazing. And suddenly you become more of a threat. Why? Because when you're around people with split parts, even if you do nothing, even if you just sit there in your power and in your light, you're no longer playing. You're not no longer tangoing. You're no longer doing what you naturally would or what most people naturally do around somebody with a split part, whether that part is pulling at your bleeding heart or that part is, being belligerent and you're being protective, alert, or whatever the case may be. Suddenly now you're just clear, you're a mirror, and you're making them vulnerable by seeing their misbehavior, seeing how they're acting, and they might try to split you. They might try to get a reaction, especially if you have history with that particular person. Because if you react in the same way you used to, they're they're gonna feel much more comfortable because you're holding the shadow of their part, and everything is gonna feel harmonious, so to speak, under this contract. If you don't respond and you stay clear, what might eventually happen is you're not going to become a target anymore. You're no fun to play this game with. They're going to find somebody else. Either way, for you, it might feel like a loss of a friend, or you might get confused like this is not right, it's not working, because the center, that's only if you shift the center to the external, because you're so focused on the external harmony, the conflict not being there. If you stay in your center, it's not going to be hard because you're at peace. And if you don't tango with everybody, that doesn't necessarily mean it's conflict. You're just oil and water, it's not working. and you can't save them all. They're going to have to do what they need to do and go through the journey, and it could be peaceful. But for that to feel like a peaceful limit and connection, or what I say, unconditional love, conditional limits, it all has to do with how well you integrate, how strong and clear your firewall protection is, how strong and clear your inner glue is, and how much your integrated higher self voice is in charge of the parts. So all the parts could speak their minds and everything. The higher selves, the integrated self, the zoomed out, highest perspective makes the final decision, is the wisest self, and decides how to proceed, how to hold a certain situation. So that's it for today. Thank you so much. I hope this was helpful. Let's sit for a moment and just feel all of our parts nicely, all in place, all where they belong. If there's any places where there's still cracks or things stuck, hopefully you have some tools to continue clearing all that out and gluing all these parts together. Last thing I want you to do is tap on your heart and really feel the epicenter. Your heart is beating like the epicenter, but I think a lot of times we don't really feel our beating heart, our energy coming from there. So the integrated self is right on the sternum, not the heart where it is to the left. On the rib cage, but right at the sternum. Yes, that is the epicenter. And when it all comes together and you're intrinsically motivated to do something, whether it's rest, move slower, help somebody, help yourself, whatever it might be, it needs to feel, it needs to be alive there and come from this place. And this place needs to be just as alive when you're not even having a necessarily having a goal, and the goal is just to be and to be healthy and to be still. Okay, so that was the last little exercise that they wanted me to show you. I'm gonna have you now just stretch a little bit, have your focus and attention come back a little bit more into the present moment, in the space you're in. Stretch a bit. I don't want it to be too jarring. We went really, really deep. So bring your attention and focus back. Maybe twirl your hands, stretch your feet, move your neck. And when you feel fully back in the here and now, in the present moment, open your eyes when you're ready. Thank you for joining me today in staking out spiritual space in solidarity and in community. Please share this video and the Zoom link below with anyone who would love some support in hearing their authentic voice over all the noise and realign with clear choice. I offer me time through meditation virtual meetings every second and fourth Monday of the month from 1:30 to 2:30 p.m. PST. If you would like deeper and more personalized guidance, how to heal, love, lead with soul authority, please visit me at soulauthoritycoaching.com or thesacredhealingwell.com for more information.